I'd like to begin by suggesting to you that whether or not you're a Democrat or Republican, regardless what your political affiliation is, I think it's fair to say that we find ourselves in a pretty deep hole right now, particularly internationally. We find ourselves in a circumstance where, without assessing responsibility or blame, that for the first time, I think, in the history of this country, we've been more isolated in terms of the rest of the world looking to the United States for guidance than we ever have been. That there are not many places in the world where folks are particularly excited about that telephone. I'm only joking. Are particularly excited about the fact that they're looking for American leadership. And the truth of the matter is, we also find ourselves in a circumstance where in my view, I have never seen the case since I've been a United States Senator, where the middle class is as uncertain about their future as they are today. I've seen times when they've been more angry, when they've been more upset, but I've not seen a time when they've been more uncertain about the prospects for their children to be able to live in the neighborhood they live in and live the same middle class life that they have had. And so I think that that it's fair to say that the country is at a moment where they're trying to figure out how we move from here. What do? How do we restore our place in the world? How do we reinvigorate the middle class? And there's sort of a big boulder that's sitting in the road, in the middle of the road, preventing us from being able to regain the credibility around the world to be the world's leader again. And it's to regain the flexibility we need to deal with the domestic problems and opportunities we have. And it's called Iraq. And the war in Iraq is consuming all of our attention, $120 billion a year of our income. It has cost us already over 3,600 lives, over 25,000, close to 26,000 injured. There are more amputees from this war than any war on a per capita basis since the Civil War. And there are more people coming back with traumatic brain injuries than any war in actual numbers than World War II. It's taken a heavy toll. We went to war, in my view, prematurely and unnecessarily. We went to war without the sufficient amount of troops, without, most important, without a plan as to how we were going to end this war. But here we are. We're in a war today. And although I think the vast majority of Americans, all political parties, think this war must end, you're basically being given two false choices from Washington, D.C. On one side, you're being told that do more of the same and basically hand it off to the next guy. And for the other side of the equation, you're basically being told, get out and hope for the best. And the truth of the matter is, neither of those is a rational solution. The question is, how do we leave Iraq? How do we leave Iraq in a way that gets my son home if he goes? I have a son who's a captain in the United States Army. His unit is just National Guard. Unit have been notified that they should be ready to leave the beginning of next year in 2008. I don't want him to go. But the truth of the matter is, he will go. He will not complain about it, nor will I. I don't want him going, but even equally as important, I don't want my grandson, Hunter, going. And how we leave this war, how we leave this country, will determine whether or not we have to send our children and grandchildren back. So there's a lot at stake. And I think it's important that we basically tell the truth. I've been, I know, and all of you know, a very staunch critic for the last 6 years of this administration's policy in Iraq and other places. If you're a Sunday morning junkie, you've had to put up with me and every Sunday morning just about the last 6 years on Meet the Press and Face the Nation and all those programs. And my criticism has been straightforward, and I would argue some of it has been pretty dead on. But the question is, how do we leave? How do we leave? And I'm the only one in either political party that's offered a concrete plan as to how to get out of Iraq without having to go back. Because the truth of the matter is If we leave chaos behind, this civil war will metastasize into the region. You will see a regional war involving Turkey, Iran, and other nations in that region. And we may not have to go back in the next year or 2 or 3 or 5, but sure as we sit here, we will, and our interest will be vitally implicated by it. And so, what do? And no other person has put forward, everyone says there is no military solution to Iraq, including the president now says that. Everybody says there's a political solution. Yet not a single person in either political party has offered a political solution. Political solution being is, how do you get the Sunnis and the Shia and the Kurds to disengage from this violent civil war that we find ourselves in the midst of, and it is eating up our blood and our treasure and destabilizing that region of the world? Everyone has a tactical suggestion. All 99 candidates for president, myself included, in both parties. And they say surge the troops, or cut the troops, or move the troops. And the next president of the United States has to be able to answer a significant 2-word question. Surge, then what? Reduce troops, then what? Reconfigure the troops, then what? What happens then?